start the recording. Start the recording here. Okay, so this is the fourth session of the Lord Chaitanya Siksastaka prayers. And this last time we kind of covered the section between the important section between verses 2 and 3, where this super important situation of anartha nivritti takes place. Because text 2 talked about this unsteady devotional service, anishta sadhana bhakti, and this third verse describes steady ones. And what happens in between is the removal of all the obstacles that keeps us stuck and prevents us from reaching the steady condition. Last time, Tolstoy Maharaji mentioned that this third verse, it's recommended that it be worn around the heart, and my friend Vidagdha Madhava Prabhu was listening to the recording, and he thought he was pretty convinced he knew where to find that verse, and he did. And so it's in Adi Lila in the 17th chapter, Lord Chaitanya recites this verse the first time. There's we're dealing with Antya Lila, chapter 20, the final verse where he recites all of them, but he recites this particular verse in Adi Lila chapter 17. And he recites it. This is one who thinks himself lower than the grass, who is more tolerant than a tree, and who does not expect personal honor, yet is always prepared to give all respect to others, can very easily always chant the holy name of the Lord. So this is Lord Chaitanya speaking that verse, also in this case. And so then he says, and so it's actually Lord Chaitanya giving the instruction to wear it around the neck. And he says, raising my hands, I declare, everyone please hear me. String this verse on the thread of the holy name and wear it on your neck for continuous remembrance. So this is how important the qualities in this verse are. And then I've got here the Lord Chaitanya in both cases, in the 17th chapter and then in Anjali, the 20th chapter, once he recites the verse, he has some reflections on it, or some brief explanations. So we're going to go through those quickly. And so he says, to chant the holy name always, one should be humbler than the grass in the street, and devoid of all desire for personal honor, but one should offer others all respectful obeisances. And then in chapter 20, he does a similar thing. He says, these are the symptoms of one who chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Although he is very exalted, he thinks himself lower than the grass on the ground. And like a tree, he tolerates everything in two ways. When a tree is cut down, it does not protest. And even when drying up, it does not ask anyone for water. So that's the first thing it does. And then the other way, it says, the tree delivers its fruits, flowers, and whatever else it possesses to anyone and everyone. It tolerates scorching heat and torrents of rain, yet it still gives shelter to others. And then he says, although a Vaishnava is the most exalted person, he is prideless and gives all respect to everyone, knowing everyone to be the resting place of Krishna. And then he says something really powerful again. If one chants the holy name of Lord Krishna in this manner, he will certainly awaken his dormant love for Krishna's lotus feet. So again, another sign of the importance of this particular verse. And then another friend of mine, Madhukanta Prabhu, he found for me this really interesting section of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Jaiva Dharma, which is really relevant to what we're talking about today. And so I've got some of that added some of that to the curriculum today. So this is chapter 8 in Jaiva Dharma, and these are characters in they're fictional characters in the Jaiva Dharma. But it says, Nityananda Das said, it seems from this that one cannot be a Vaishnava if one does not have humility and compassion. And Haridas says, that is true. And Nityananda Das says, does Bhakti Devi then depend on humility and compassion? Are these qualities that you have to have in order for Bhakti to develop? And we mentioned also before how Bhakti is free, so it seems strange. And Haridas said, Bhakti is not dependent on anything else. Bhakti by itself is beauty and ornament. Or nothing, don't need to add anything to it. It's beautiful in itself. It does not depend on any good quality. Humility and compassion are separate qualities. They are included within bhakti. So these things are intrinsic. The characteristics in this verse are intrinsic things in bhakti. The bhakti, you can't have bhakti, a real full-fledged bhakti without them, and they're not separate from bhakti. Because the way they arise come from a bhakti point of view. And then he says, a tender affection for Krishna is bhakti. Having tender affection for other jivas who are also servants of Krishna is called compassion. Thus, compassion is included within bhakti for Krishna. Again, it's intrinsic. So the reason why these qualities are so important is that they actually are part of bhakti themselves. If bhakti doesn't have them, it's incomplete. And this tender affection for Krishna, right? This is the mood of wanting to please him. Or we talked about when we have gratitude, right? And we want to do something back. That's a very pleasing mood towards Krishna, because we have a tender affection for him. In that case, and then it goes on further. It says, forgiveness is the bhava situated between compassion and humility. We're going to talk about this later on. It says, I am low. How can I punish another person? When this attitude combines with compassion, it becomes forgiveness. Forgiveness is included within bhakti. So another quality that's intrinsic. And bhakti is not. And so he says, in reality, humility, compassion, and forgiveness. So in reality, bhakti, so this means the tender feeling towards Krishna. Humility, compassion, and forgiveness are four special states included in bhakti. These things are what's included in this verse. The verse looks at those four characteristics. So this verse, it's not describing something separate or something that's useful for bhakti, but it's what bhakti is comprised of. And if they're missing, the bhakti remains incomplete. So again, another indication that this verse is so crucial, important. So there they are, the humility. There's the first line, being lower than the grass, right? Tolerance and compassion are there with the tree, right? And forgiveness and pridelessness are coming in the third line. So we'll take a look at those things, because we've heard these things many times, and how do we actually attain them? It isn't so easy, So we want to try to understand a little bit how we might come to be able to actually develop these qualities. And so, with humility, there's different kind of considerations, And one of them is the considering oneself unworthy to receive the mercy. We talked about that. That was one element of pride. Right? When we think that it must be something special about me that I've received the holy name, and some of the understanding of devotional service, and so many others haven't. So there must be something special about me. We showed the contrary arguments to that last time, that actually it's causeless mercy, and we haven't deserved it one bit. We should see that the reason why we don't feel gratitude or enough gratitude is because our hearts are hard. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur quotes that particular verse that comes from the Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that if one's chanting the holy name, and the Siksastaka bhavas, there's not tears, there's not hair standing on end, there's not all these symptoms of transcendental ecstasy happening in you, then it means your heart is as hard as iron. And that's our problem, and it means our ego is too powerful. So therefore, we're not grateful, we're not tolerant, we're not compassionate, we're not forgiving of all these things. So we should consider that although we've received so much from Krishna, that we almost have to sometimes find our gratitude, make ourselves see that we should be grateful. It's not coming so naturally as it should. So if we consider that I've received something so valuable that I'm unworthy to do it, that had nothing to do with it, that I have a hard heart, therefore I'm not grateful, that my response to Krishna because of my lack of gratitude is very underwhelming. And this really all comes from a failure to comprehend, the magnitude of both Krishna and the mercy he's given to us. So certain contemplations, can help us a little bit to act. So this is gratitude, as we mentioned, let's say, morphs into gratitude intensified becomes humility, at least this part of it. And then, so I because of the verse from the Jaiva Dharma, I was inspired to look at Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Bhajan Rahasya about this verse. So I might find something more there. So he talks about this, how we can lament our position and feel humble. And this comes from, these are 3 verses out of 6 composed by Yamunacharya. And he says, I'm not fixed in Dharma. I do not know Atma. I have no devotion to your lotus feet. I am destitute without any other goal. O object of surrender, I surrender to your feet. He says, there is no condemned action in this world which I have not committed 1,000 times. O Mukunda, as my karma matures helpless, I now cry in front of you. As we talked about, those are the two things that the ego really attacked us with. Initially, we may have had some gratitude for the holy name, but then the ego came out and we wanted to take credit for it or think that we were better. Initially better for receiving it, and then maybe better because of how well we're performing our devotional service. Thinking that we're now we're earning everything that we get. Now that we deserve everything because of our good qualities. He says, I break the rules and am low, fickle-minded, filled with envy, ungrateful, proud, lusty, and a cheater. I am cruel and sinful. How will I cross the shoreless ocean of suffering and serve your lotus feet? So these are humble sentiments. And then so what I really want to do here is, because oftentimes when we hear these kind of statements, that we think then that humility is low self-esteem. You're supposed to feel really, really, really bad about yourself. And that's hard for us. So I want to take a look at 3 things: pride, low self-esteem, and then humility, and try to see if we can see the differences here. Okay, so in pride, we may acknowledge that Krishna has given, that this was wonderful gift. Okay, but now that I have it, right, he chose it because I'm special. He must have seen something in me. Right? Why doesn't everybody else have it? Because I'm special. And then now, I'm doing so great. I'm chanting so well. I'm performing my sadhana so well. I'm learning so much. I'm really, I'm doing so much better than others. Krishna must be really pleased with me. We mentioned that, that comes from that the Utsahamai. So immediately we're taking credit. Thank you, Krishna, for getting me started, and now I'm taking it from here. Right? And that kind of an attitude, of course, edges Krishna's mercy out. We say, one sense, we're telling him that we don't need his help. That, hey, I'm handling all this. I'm doing this myself. So this is pride. Okay? Low self-esteem sounds more like this. Okay, Krishna's given me this wonderful gift, and I'm failing so many different ways. And Krishna now must really see that I'm not very special at all. He's probably giving up on me and angry with me and disappointed in me. I'm a complete and utter failure. So here I'm feeling really bad about myself. That is the reverse of pride. Pride and low self-esteem are 2 sides of the same coin. It's not pride and humility. Humility is a different animal. And let's take a look at it. Although it sounds a little the same on the surface, but underneath it's different. So so Krishna has given me the priceless gift of the holy name. So usually the appreciation is a little higher there. And again, I'm just like Acharya was saying, I failed in so many ways. I'm helpless in so many ways. All these things are there. I'm not grateful. I'm not, doing things properly. But I'm in Maya. My ego is overcoming me. But I know that Krishna's love for me and his compassion upon me is permanent, and Krishna will never give up on me and will help me all the time. So this is the source of my hope, the source of my esteem, is that I'm all these terrible things. I'm weak in so many ways. I have all these faults that anybody can enumerate, but I know that Krishna is faithful. I know that Krishna cares for me. He always has and always. We know that. I mean, one way that we know that is that Krishna is the super soul in everybody's heart. Right? Krishna doesn't have to be there personally. He could create, some other way for the functions of the super soul to take place without his personal presence. He's there because the souls are. He says they're my parts and parcels. He says they're dear to me. He says he's the well-wisher of all souls. He's connected to them. So when Krishna is there, it's a sign of affection. We can come to this material world. We can be separate from him. We don't want to deal with him. That's why we come here. But he comes with us. He's not going to let us come alone, and he hides, so we're not disturbed that he came. We're trying to get away from you, Krishna. So he hides. So Krishna never gives up. We talked last time even how he even sends his devotees to as Prabhupada says, rectify the God consciousness, the demons who despise him. And so Krishna is always faithful. Krishna is never going to give up. Krishna is never going to stop being concerned for us, and he's not ever going to stop being willing to help. And so, and when you feel that, it's you realize, I don't deserve that. That makes you humble, right? I don't deserve Krishna's love, but he loves me, and there's no chance he's going to stop. When we think, he may stop, I'm not worthy of somebody's love, and therefore they will stop loving me, that's low self-esteem. I feel very, very bad. This invokes humility. This is a humble attitude. I see all my faults. Krishna sees all my faults, but he still loves me. His love is unconditional. So therefore, there's always hope for me. So that's the difference. So in pride, you want to be someone special, and are happy, right, whenever we think that we are. We've attained, I'm special now. Now I feel very happy about that. And the reverse of that is low self-esteem. When I want to be someone special, but I'm very unhappy when I discover I'm not. Those are just the opposites. So they're the same thing. They have the same root. They want to be somebody. If they feel like they are, happy. If they feel like they're not, unhappy. They're really the same thing. It's a sliding scale. You move between one and the other. That's how it works. And then humility, we believe that we aren't special at all, but are overjoyed because of Krishna's unconditional love. Because Krishna is so special, then we become special because of Krishna's specialness. But we can't be prideful of it. Right? We can't be proud of that. Krishna loves everybody. And we can't, there's no way to figure out why he would do that. That's Krishna's special heart. Krishna's heart is so wonderful that he loves even us, no matter what. So we can't claim any particular credit for that. That produces humility. That's humility. And it's a in one sense, there's distress in it. We wish. Why can't I reciprocate with Krishna better? Why can't I feel more gratitude? I don't feel satisfied in this condition. But it's a beautiful condition. No other time in our existence have we had such a reason for hope or had such a reason to be happy and feel secure. And we know that Krishna has our back. So the way I see it, there's kind of a progression that you start with gratitude, which is a kind of a humility light. And when that deepens, and especially when we feel how Krishna reciprocates with us, and we get to a deeper realization of who Krishna is and what he's offering us and how fortunate we really are, it goes into humility. And even gratitude, you have a certain notion of that you want to pay something, you want to do something for Krishna. He's done something so much for you. You feel a certain indebtedness. But when the humility comes and it becomes even more intense, then you feel this very powerful feeling of being a debtor, and a much stronger, and that becomes prominent, then you have this really strong desire to do something for Krishna. And we'll see that develop more and more as we pass through the other verses. So these are all the same thing, it's just different intensities as far as I can understand. So that's the humility part, right? When we really understand our disqualification, when we understand the wonder of what Krishna has given us, and really he's given us himself, and how just mind-boggling that is. We will feel smaller, lower than the grass. No way that anything that we have, any good quality we have, can anywhere match what Krishna is offering. But it'll be a beautiful feeling. The ego goes down, and but then the next level is different. There's in the tree, there's tolerance, right, and compassion, right? The two different ways, right? The tolerance is it doesn't protest when it's drying up without water, doesn't ask for water when drying up, and doesn't protest when cut down. So there's tolerance here. Now this is where things. See, each time we go a step, we're going to encounter the ego again. Because the whole process, right, is this softening of the heart. The heart starts out hard as iron, which means the ego is there. And then each step along, the heart softens. It's supposed to get a little softer or open, a little more, a little more, a little more, a little more. And eventually at the state of bhava, it melts. Right? So it's okay, right, if Krishna is smoothing our life and helping us, making everything nice and smooth and happy, right? But what happens when things we don't want happens? Right? What happens when we run into troubles? So then we might lose faith. Where's Krishna? How did he abandon me? What's going on? Right? If he's my friend, if he loves me, shouldn't he make everything easy for me? So in this case, in this stage, we have to have a lot of trust that Krishna is both protecting us and guiding us. Otherwise, we may feel unprotected. Oh, I need something else besides Krishna. Well, these things are happening to me. And then we have to believe that Krishna has our best interest in mind. We know even sometimes we may voluntarily go through some unpleasantness for our own good. Some painful medical treatment, maybe you have to, I think Sam likes school pretty well, but sometimes studying is not always the first thing on the list you might want to do today. So many, we may want to do many things. So sometimes we also voluntarily take up different types of austerities for a goal. And parents say sometimes they can't give their children everything they always want. It won't be helpful to them. Even Nanda Maharaj was saying that he doesn't like to punish Krishna, but otherwise, what kind of a person will he grow up to be unless sometimes he he corrects him? What kind of father would he be? So Krishna knows what's wrong with us, what our obstacles are, and he's acting always for our benefit. If we feel that very strongly, then we won't be shaken so much when some things that happen that we don't want to happen do. That's where so our faith in those two things are going to be sorely tested. And then again, there's the opening of the heart. So the relationship is nice, right? When Krishna is giving us all wonderful things and he loves us and everything is beautiful, right? But what if he starts, acting in ways that maybe they're maybe ultimately useful, but we can't see that right now. So can we open our heart to Krishna, having seen how he's acted with us so far? And when we have a deeper relationship with people, we will learn to accept their flaws. If we have, a valuable connection, we have the different levels of friendships and relationships. And with some people, it has to be all good because it's kind of shallow. And as soon as they do something you don't like, then maybe the relationship is broken. And with people we have a deeper connection to, even if we think it's wrong, we will accept more of that because the connection is deeper, the heart connection is greater. There's opening of the heart. That's a deepening of a relationship oftentimes means, the other person isn't always going to do what we want. Maybe they do things we don't like, but the connection is worth it. And so we're sometimes challenged when difficult things happen, then to open the heart further towards Krishna. Say, Krishna, I don't understand this, but I have faith that this is for my own good. I have faith that you're protecting me. Boy, I didn't want this to happen, but somehow I'm going to open my heart and not reject you, to go ahead with this. So these are the elements are coming out in that part of it. And so I want to take a look. There's reasons why devotees suffer that are given in various places. First of all is karma. And Prabhupada will say sometimes, right, that because of our past karma, we will suffer, but Krishna will minimize it, to the greatest degree. And although in general, karma is removed quite quickly through the process of bhakti. If one is even at the unsteady stage, karma is pretty much reduced. The way I understand it, what here in this case is that, there are things in us, anarthas, that are causing us to be stagnated on the path of bhakti. And some of these are caused by attitudes that we're bringing with us from previous lifetimes. So with karma, the main thing is not punitive or punishment, but it's trying to get you to understand. If you had a certain negative attitude that's caused you to do something negative to somebody, right, then you have to have the same thing done to you so that you can understand. I don't want to act that way towards people. I don't want people to feel, I understand, oh, wow, I don't want to have anybody else feel that way. And so something is removed. So even if it's not really prominent in our present personality, it's hiding someplace and that we have this negative attitude. So sometimes we'll suffer something in order to see how the other side would feel and to develop our compassion. And so Krishna sometimes will see those things that's already present, in our karma, and let just enough of it through to make the point. Hopefully by now our hearts are a little softer, so we may not need as heavy a lesson as we would have without Krishna's presence. But so sometimes it's that. But again, it's Krishna seeing that, he's allowing that to happen instead of removing it because he sees, no, this can be educational. And then the second big cause of negativity, things that happen to us, is Krishna himself. Right? Because he sees exactly what needs to happen in order for you to grow. And so he leads you into things that you might find unpleasant, that I might find unpleasant. but is actually leading us into a place of growth and development. This will, if we can pass through this experience as best we can learn something very valuable from it. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says also sometimes we have things that come from our offenses, right? And so like with when Krishna does it, he's opening the path for us to take deeper shelter of him. You're opening the heart towards him and saying, "Okay, Krishna, I'm going to trust you on this. I'm really going to trust you on this. I'm opening my heart. I'm having my doubts. But I'm going to open my heart to you. And okay." The way I always have thought about it, it's like when we sign up for Krishna, we have this notion of pure devotional service, that we're simply going to do what pleases Krishna. We sign the contract with our big John Hancock, big signature there. And then in the back of our mind, we have all these addenda to the contract. This says, but Krishna, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, you must do this, all these things have to happen, right? Because you're going to take care of me. I'm not going to have any problems, right? Right? And Krishna, he signs it, smiles. Yes, of course. Pretends he doesn't see all your addenda. So you think, okay, you've got him, And then what Krishna does is one at a time, he does that thing he's not supposed to do, or doesn't do the thing that you required him to do according to your addenda. All right. And then we freak out. But Krishna, you weren't supposed to do that, and he smiles at it and says, well, but I'm a nice guy. You don't want to break the contract, right? You can let me slide on this one. Okay, Krishna, but you can't do that again, right? And then of course, Krishna's the trickiest, and he just, tries again, and then he just can't. Okay, we're not going to toss it up, but you better stop doing this all the time, Krishna. And so slowly the different addenda go away, and the relationship deepens. Then the offenses, are there. The suffering that comes from offenses are to help us to warn us, hey, you're going off the track. You're losing your taste for Krishna. You're going off the track. It's a warning. Take a look. It's also not a punishment. It's a warning. Come on. You don't want to go. You're going in the wrong direction. Come back to the path. And then sometimes you'll see that fully, like Krishna's personal associates or fully realized devotees will have troubles. And that's from Leela. Like an example I can think of is, when Jarasandha was kidnapping all the kings and imprisoning them, and they were getting thin, he was starving them. They were calling out to Krishna to save them and save them and save them. And finally, after a long time, Krishna comes and rescues them. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says that happens because, it would have been happy, would have been wonderful for them to see Krishna at any time. Anytime you see Krishna is beautiful. But that particular time, right, when they were suffering and they were waiting and hoping, it was so beautiful that Krishna comes and rescues them in person. Right? The meeting was so much more tasteful. So Krishna in his Leela tries to make these powerful experiences happen, where the love can just go mad at perfect moments, adventures in perfect moments. And so he the way that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains, he says that in the summertime, cool water is pleasant, and in the winter, warm water is pleasant. Right? So the water is good any time, but under the right circumstances, it's better. So it's having Krishna come and rescue them was this wonderful moment where their love increased. And the other thing it can do is sometimes the devotees will suffer, and it shows the depth of their devotion. We see that that they've gone through all these things, and it doesn't shake them. We can understand something about them. So it's a revelation to us as an inspiration. So then the next step, compassion, means that we we extend our good feelings that we have about Krishna to those who are also dear to him. It may start with devotees and then expands further. And in the Jaiva Dharma, it says, a tender affection for Krishna is bhakti. Having tender affection for other jivas who are also servants of Krishna is called compassion. So we see them being connected with Krishna. And so by extension, those are dear to Krishna, then therefore they have to become dear to us. We see the value because of the connection with Krishna. This is in the beginning, we have a tendency to be focused on Krishna. And then we begin to appreciate, advanced devotees and then other devotees. And then even this is even the very advanced devotees, see everybody as a devotee, because they know that they all, eternally, that's what they really are. So the expanse, we start to expand. First it's just Krishna, then it's Krishna's dear devotees and other devotees, and we expand outwards, and that's where compassion comes from. It comes from seeing the connection between Krishna and having our connection with Krishna be expanded and our heart more open. And those things. And really with compassion, I think if you want to come down to a real good definition, because it means feeling with others, but I think just being well-wishers to others. Srila Prabhupada used to sign the letters to his disciples as your ever well-wisher. And so if you look at others' welfare, I think it's something from that is really powerful from His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj in his A Spiritual Warrior 2. He mentions that we can oftentimes we think how to protect ourselves from others, and he really shows, though, if we honestly try to seek the welfare of others, we'll accomplish that very well. Because say if somebody is a manipulative person, or something, right? Then if you allow them to manipulate you, okay, well, you think, that's harmful to me, but it's also harmful to them. So if I think of myself first, that's putting me in a not very compassionate place. Ooh, here's a bad person could cause me trouble. I need to protect myself. Instead, we see, here's a person who has this tendency for manipulation. And if I feed that, it's going to be bad for that person. So you can protect yourself and look out for your welfare as a byproduct of trying to see the welfare of others. He says if somebody says you can trust somebody who has who's an alcoholic if you make sure all of your alcohol is safely stashed when you're at the house, So he says, so we can look at it that way. And he says it makes a big difference if we look at people and see them. Oh, this person is, I have to avoid this person. I have to be afraid of this person. They feel that, and it crushes them. Whereas if you really try to, if you still see them as valuable and you're really trying to help them by staying away from them or whatever you're doing, they'll feel that vibration. And you'll feel it. But actually, I'm trying to help instead of trying to seeing them as an enemy. I thought it was really powerful. It was a powerful insight that he had. It changed I saw how I had behaved really foolishly in many occasions where I could have saved myself a lot of trouble if I'd done something like that. So then Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions this other thing, that there's forgiveness, and he says it's between compassion and humility. And so the way I'm reading it is that because there's humility two places in this verse. There's the beginning one lower than the grass, and the last one also is without pride, the pridelessness. And so it's the way I'm taking it is that because he says it comes after compassion. So we have already reached the level of compassion, which means the second line of the verse. And now as we're getting even more humble, we're going to come into the level, and we have pridelessness. We're going to be able to access forgiveness. Okay, and the way I see that is that that you may, if you can come to the point like the tree, somebody, does something to you that's quite harmful and hurtful, and you can be, so connected with Krishna and so humble and so, feeling in Krishna's protection that like the tree, you don't object, and you can feel compassion for that person still. And this is where the ego pops up again. Still, if somebody does something to you, it hurts you in the heart. It hurts you in the heart. Even if you don't say it, it hurts you in the heart. And and even how can you do that to me? Because it attacks your self-worth. How could you do that to me? And in a couple of places in the Gita, Krishna tells this to Arjuna. Now, Arjuna was ready. He said to go onto the battlefield, be unarmed, and not fight back and just let them kill him. He was ready. He was so against participating, he was ready to do that. And Krishna told him later, he kind of insinuated that of course, if you do that, okay, it'll be over. But if you leave the battlefield, it's not going to go well for you, because people they're going to say, oh, Krishna brought the chariot right in front of our faces. He saw us. He was scared and ran away. They're not going to say, oh, he was so compassionate. He had such high moral sensibilities. And it says, Krishna says, they'll think lightly of you and speak lightly of you. And then he says, dishonor is worse than death. It's more painful. And what would Arjuna do in that case? The indication, right, is that then he's going to want to fight. His pride is hurt and he's going to fight. Because, the specific circumstances of the battle aren't going to be there anymore. So then he's going to want to fight. And then in the Bhagavatam, there's this, this is the introduction to the story of the Avanti Brahmana. And this is Uddhava speaking in this verse. He says, "O soul of the universe, the conditioning of one's personality in material life is very strong. And therefore it is very difficult even for learned men to tolerate the offenses committed against them by ignorant people. Only your devotees who are fixed in your loving service and who have achieved peace by residing at your lotus feet are able to tolerate such offenses." This is in the Uddhava Gita. Krishna and Uddhava having this long discussion. So Krishna responds, he says, this Lord Krishna said, "O disciple of Brihaspati, there is virtually no saintly man in this world capable of resettling his own mind after it has been disturbed by the insulting words of uncivilized men." So this is even just words, but to speak of actions, right? It's worse, There's just unspoken disrespect, a failure to show respect. There's disrespectful words, and then there's even physical and other kind of really tangible offenses that can be made. He says, "Sharp arrows which pierce one's chest and reach the heart do not cause as much suffering as the arrows of harsh, insulting words that become lodged within the heart when spoken by uncivilized men." Who is unmuted? Right. Somebody who's unmuted?
About the scientists,
I can't seem to find who it is here. All right. Okay. When spoke, so that insulting words that become lodged within the heart when spoken by uncivilized men. It's sharp, worse than the physical arrows. Okay. So here's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says. He says, "Forgiveness is the bhava situated between compassion and humility. I am low. How can I punish another person? When this attitude combines with compassion, it becomes forgiveness." So you can see that it's especially worse when somebody who you think is below you in some ways, insults you or does something to you. So you can see its ego. And even if it's reversed, right? And somebody else is, more respected or more powerful or more something, and you're, a weaker victim. You hear people, couldn't they at least understand I was a person? Right? How could they do something so horrible, not even realizing I'm a person? So there's this, it's, I mean, we see how low the pride has gone down by this point, but that something like that, where you're being attacked, even if you can have compassion, even if you can not respond directly, it's going to hurt you in your heart. They didn't even think of me as a human. Or how can they not see me? And so this is more painful. And in some ways, more painful because it gets right at your whole self-worth. So it comes up again. So again, this is a challenge to become even more humble and more compassionate. That, and if you, again, and opening the heart further, you see that, and again, taking more shelter of Krishna, that my worth comes from Krishna, not from anything else, not from anybody else, but from Krishna. And having even greater faith that Krishna is arranging things in a way that's helpful for my spiritual life. So it's another deeper humility even. So even the hurt in the heart, you can forgive it. It's very deep. And the last part of it, right, is the pridelessness, not wanting respect from others and having respect for others. So, really our ego usually we find our self-worth in comparison with others. And so really, whatever little bit is left will jump out. And if there's a lot left, it really jumps out when we're around other people. It just happens that way. And so wanting to have no respect and wanting to give respect is usually against what we want. We want the other way. We want to be respected, and you may even want to give respect. We definitely want to be respected. And so in the Bhajam Rahasya, he says, the best devotee is devoid of pride. He respects all jivas, understanding that Krishna is present within them. And I think the way I always look at it too is that there's Krishna and his dear one. The jiva is there, and Krishna is there. And Krishna is there because that soul is dear to him. He belongs to him. And so therefore, why wouldn't we respect them? Why wouldn't we see value in them? Again, it derives from that connection with Krishna. And we feel, we also, of course, are dear to Krishna, but we can feel inside how, I don't deserve that. So I can't have pride. For the other people, I can't feel their undeservingness. So I think, oh, look, Krishna loves them. So also let me care for them as well. Right? And then he also says in the Jaiva Dharma, I'm a worthless servant of Krishna. I'm nothing, but Krishna is everything to me. See, this is the attitude that shrinks all the different pride down to nothing. Compared to what Krishna has given me, I haven't deserved anything. I'm nothing compared to that, compared to my good fortune. What can I do for Krishna? But I know he loves me. He's the only thing I care about. Troubles or not troubles, like how I compare to other people doesn't matter. That this reaches its super height in the very last verse when Radharani says like that. You can trample me under your feet or raise me up and embrace you. Connection is so strong you can do anything you want. I love you unconditionally. So we're gradually removing our conditions for Krishna and seeing him as the only value. When we have able to do that, then we have this really powerful platform where we can, Jesus, remember Krishna all the time or chant the holy name all the time. And from here, it's downhill. To get to this point is very difficult for us because of the hard-heartedness. But there's a path there. And it just starts with gratitude. And step by step by step, it all can increase. We can't just jump all the way here. I think that's pretty clear from the the depth of these qualities. But we can move towards it, and Krishna will help us. Okay, so I think that's everything for today. I'm gonna stop the screen share and be able to see all of you. And so are there other comments or questions or complaints or anything of any nature, any discussion on what we talked about today?
I can jump in, or somebody else.
Please do. Dr. Madhavapur, please go ahead.
Dandavat, Giri Govardhan Prabhu. I have my notes here. Let me see. Anyway, you reminded me of something that Sridhar Maharaj would say, and that is that the environment is friendly, that we're wasting our time if we're trying to change things around us. We have to adjust, and we have to see Krishna in the mix, meaning whatever's coming to us is somehow for the best. You know that story of that minister, right? It's all for the best. You know that story, right?
Tell us.
You must.
Tell us to remind us. I'm getting old and my memory is frail, so maybe you got to remind me.
Anyway, some king, he had a minister, and the minister had this, the go-to phrase. He said, "It's all for the best." And the king cut his finger tip off one day. Somehow it happened. And the king got really upset with him. How can that be all for the best? So some time goes by, and then he has the minister go with him traveling somewhere. And they get a, let's see, somehow the minister fell into a well. Somehow he fell into a well. And after that happened, some dacoits came and they arrested the king. They captured the king, and they were tantrics, and they took him to Kali, and they were going to offer him to goddess Kali, you know, and the rituals, they bathe them and they give them a feast, and then they chop their heads off or something in front of the deity. That's the ritual. But when they were bathing the king, I wish I'll have to look at this story again because it's much better than I'm telling it. But anyway, when they noticed the digit missing from the king's hand, so he was not an acceptable offering, right?
Right.
And so then they let him go. And the king went back to the well, and then he I don't know how the minister ended up in the well, but he got him out. And so he said, "You know what? You're right. I almost got murdered, but because my fingertip was missing, they wouldn't do it. But what I don't understand is how is it for the best that you fell in the well?" And he said, "Well, if I was still, you know, if they saw me and we all got arrested together and then they reject you for their offering, I would have been next."
That would have been a suitable sacrifice.
Something like that.
Right.
Anyway, I didn't tell a story as good as maybe it should be, but there's always some kind of an angle you can see on almost anything that happens. And we have to look for that. We have to see Krishna behind the screen. It's sometimes Sridhar Maharaj would say he's smiling behind the screen. So I get tested a lot. I'm carrying ego, and I have knee-jerk reactions to stuff. I mean, when I'm out driving, somebody cuts me off, you know, I mouth off at them. I mean, I don't do full road rage, but you know, I'll say something, you know. bonehead or something, you know? So, yeah. So my question is this, are we cultivating, like we're cultivating bhakti. So it's said that one who's trying to be a devotee, automatically all these good qualities come to the devotee. But is it that we're looking to improve? You know, we see where we fail with our false ego and our dealings with others. You know, we want to go to that harsh side and just give them the time of day or something.
Yeah, two things I'd say to that is, and these particular qualities, Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, are intrinsic to bhakti. So this is not this is not something separate in any way. And so if we're doing bhakti, then that's there. The other thing, yes, we're supposed to pull the weeds out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think things, especially things that are deeply rooted, you know, we have to use our intelligence and take a look and see where we stand and how we can act in ways that are beneficial. See where, because right, it says we're supposed to do things favorable and avoid things unfavorable. You know, so we're supposed to take a look at ourselves, be a little introspective, and see, yeah, where I can improve and how I can do that, how I can develop my understanding, develop my react better when circumstances happen in these ways. Yeah, so I think so. I think we can introspection and that kind of stuff is quite a part of it.
Yeah, Bhaktivinoda used to write a journal, and you know, at the end of the day, he would grade himself on how it went, you know, that day.
Yeah. So I think that
way you could track yourself and see, okay, how did I do today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's quite acceptable for us to do that, you know. I mean, because in order for the holy name to work, it has to be done, has to be sankirtan, it has to be done completely, has to be done properly. Right. So we can look at ourselves in that way.
I see.
Yeah. Ragamanjari Matji. Please go ahead. I see your hand up.
Hi, Krishna. Thank you for the class. Prabhu, I had one question. Does humility manifest in different ways in different people? Because generally humility means they see externally they're so humble and you know, in their behaviors. But as you explained about humility, I was just thinking maybe externally a person may not look very submissive, may not look very maybe behaviorally very polite, but is it possible that that person can be dependent on Krishna and the humility could be a different thing?
Yeah, sure, because we notice the different components to it, you know. And also in one problem that we have, right, is humility in our line is a praiseworthy thing. And so we may also sometimes want to look very humble in order to gain some praise, right? And so it's not just superficial. You know, I see it runs very, very deep. Now it doesn't hurt us, you know, to practice. Say maybe we're not so humble. Like oftentimes devotees you'll hear people say, you know, I took the humble position. You know, and I always, of course, now that's okay if you're trying to learn what it feels like. But otherwise, when you say I take the humble position, sounds to me like, you know, I really I shouldn't have been humble in that case, but because I'm so humble, I became humble. The other person was in the wrong. That's not humility. So there's all different levels of it. As we saw here, it deepens as you advance. And, you know, and so it starts with gratitude, you know, deepens into humility and goes deeper than that. So it's not always just external behavior. It really comes something deep in the heart, deep in where the ego is really going down. So it's not just if I'm able to in public to be very sweet and, you know, very nice and this kind of stuff. It doesn't hurt to practice that, but do you feel it? That's important. So Mahamantra Prabhu?
Yes,
Prabhu. Other people I see, Sachin
Prabhuji?
and Jose. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhu, I mean, so many wonderful points that touch my heart. And one thing is like your, I mean, I thought I heard properly. You're saying like if there is a manipulative person, not feeding his manipulative tendency, not feeding to him, will help him. That's what you said, Prabhu?
Well, if your attitude is such, you see that person and you're afraid of being manipulated, and so you take some kind of countermeasures, and your meditation is that, oh, this person, could be a problem for me, so therefore I want to protect myself.
Oh, instead.
Yeah, and so instead you say, oh, it will be a problem for that person if I feed
Right.
that tendency. So let me
Yes.
try to avoid it. And so in that way, I have a different attitude towards that person.
Right.
I want to help them. And so rather than trying to defeat them. And I don't see them as an enemy, but I see, oh, this is somebody I could be helpful. And they'll feel that difference in attitude. And that may help them.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing, Prabhu. So
that's Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. That was really in his you'll see it in his Spiritual Warrior too. He talks about that.
Yes, Prabhu. So some time ago, like so there was a narcissistic boss in my life, and I came to understand, from others saying this word. That's when I came across first. There is a word called narcissism and narcissistic personality, all that. But then I researched like how to deal with this person. One of the suggestion is the first suggestion, and second suggestion is you pour honey, like praise them and flatter them, this kind of thing. So because I couldn't do the first, I tried the second one. First of all, I was not happy with that in my heart, and it didn't cause a little bit change also in the other person, because it started inflating their entitlement and their grandeur and all, like more and more and more.
Right. You looked like a vulnerable person at that point.
Right. And what my praising caused is, it caused more damage to others, because she started demanding from others.
Yeah. Feeling they're feeling proud, right? Like now they're really rising up. Yeah. You encourage their behavior. Yeah.
So I took a vow, really, I'll never do this again. Whatever comes my way, I'll accept, but I'm not going to feed the demand, for narcissistic supply. So, but I had a guilty feeling, Prabhu. Because of that, what happened was I became a little hard-hearted. What if I appreciate someone? What if it feeds their ego? I went into that loop, but
you
then,
do have to think. You have to think about that.
really?
How you at least how you show that appreciation.
Yes.
Because if you praise people too effusively, and then they can't take it without being proud, you can help hurt them actually. So that's why it says with kind of beginners, you can offer respects repeatedly within the mind.
Yeah.
Not because they're not worthy of more, because they're connected with Krishna, but because it will not help them. So we do have to consider people's welfare in that. Otherwise you're being a little selfish. I'm going to offer obeisance to everybody.
Yeah.
But you may hurt somebody with that. So there's a Sachindra Prabhu, and then Jose Prabhu also had questions. So Sachindra, I think, was first, and so let's move on with him. We're gonna. Did you, Sachindra Krishna Prabhu? You saw the question?
Prabhu. Yeah. Thank you for the class. It was excellent. My question is, the person who, we talk about humility, gratitude, forgiveness, And it's nice to study those. And as someone was saying, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says we should take a daily meditation on where we stand in all of these for our progression in the path of bhakti. But then someone who's very advanced devotee, Uttamadhikari, when they look at these things, humility, forgiveness, do they see themselves as not possessing any of those in any measure? Or they just, is that?
What happens with them, you see, is that they have a much greater realization of Krishna than we do. So our challenge right now is to appreciate Krishna sufficiently. And when we begin to appreciate who Krishna is and what he's offering us, then we immediately feel unworthy of that. We feel we need to repay something. We feel gratitude. But with the Uttamadhikaris, their realization, we're going to talk about this as the verses go on, their realization of Krishna is so much more profound. Our connection with Krishna is largely conceptual. And when we realize who it is, then they see, then their humility becomes even greater and greater. And so they'll see themselves as, again, even more worthless and useless. But, they don't have any trouble. They don't have to remove any weeds, and there's no problem for them. That's just, you can be happy for them in their ecstasy. They simply feel, and of course it's an ecstasy because, they understand that somehow Krishna is connected with them. So it's like that. So is that okay?
Yeah, that's perfect, Prabhu. Thank you.
Jose Prabhu, I saw you had your hand up earlier.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Please accept my most humble obeisances.
Yes, please.
Yes, bro. I had a realization when you were referring to the function of resistance as something meaningful and important. And from one of your previous lectures, when a devotee asked you a question, why do we experience resistance? And she was asking you why resistance is
okay. Yeah, I understand.
Why resistance is something necessary. And your answer was so enlightening to me, and I just wanted to go over that real quick because it was very useful for me in my practice. The metaphor you used as for the gym and the muscle.
Yeah.
Very profound.
Yeah, because we might ask, right, when we have the tolerance part, why doesn't just, if Krishna is doing this to help us root out some anarthas and difficulties in our life, why doesn't he just wave his magic wand and take all the negativities away, give us full devotion? Why do we have to go through this? And the reason is because Krishna wants us to have a real connection with him. It has to be a real relationship. And so if he just waves his magic wand, we're just basically robots then. Because everything about bhakti has agency. It's voluntary. We want to do it. So we develop a deeper and deeper connection with him through the difficulties, through the gradually softening the heart, through the opening of the heart. It's real. If he just touches us with a magic wand, sprinkles pixie dust on our head, it's not real anymore. He could create millions of people like that. He wouldn't need to. So yeah, it builds the depth of our connection with him, like with lifting weights. If I lift my pen here, not going to build any muscle. So yeah, it was appropriate for this time's class. Thank you. Mohit Priyachan Prabhu, I see also you have your hand raised. Please join us.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for the lecture today. This is my second set of round of classes with you.
Oh, wow, so, you're brave.
Yes, I was in the last one, the one which you taught on taking Krishna's shelter. Excuse me. So there was a question I had. You talked about forgiveness in your lecture today. What is the definition of forgiveness from the bhakti way of living, right? So in my life, if I am, my forgiveness is I cut myself off from people that project negativity. So I can continue to the path I want to in my life.
Sometimes we have to do that. That's a sensible step to do. Mhm.
Does the forgiveness mean that you embrace the person back, or you
No,
just let them go as a learning lesson and just keep moving forward towards your Krishna bhakti?
yeah, usually forgiveness is something where somebody does wrongs you in some way, and so if it's and usually then we feel upset, we feel hurt. Sometimes we want to respond. So forgiveness is usually about that. But sometimes we have to look at who we're associating with and that kind of stuff. It says that we're supposed to, put ourselves in favorable ground. So if we realize the value in our relationship with Krishna, we try to see what things may be inhibiting that and what things can increase it. So in that way, changing anytime, whenever we have a new interest, oftentimes we change our association. If you have some new interest and some old interests go away, it changes who you hang out with. It's just natural. So the same thing happens with bhakti. And so if you're seeing that certain associations are not helpful to your bhakti, and you remove yourself from those, I think that's a perfectly intelligent way to behave.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Well, is there anything else? We're getting kind of late, but I don't mind, but I don't want to keep anybody longer than they'd like to be here. You can always leave anytime, but is there anything else?
just had one.
One thing, mantra Prabhu was saying about the manipulative boss. That's problematic when somebody's your boss and they're like that.
Yeah.
But one thing that came to my mind was that sadhus, and I saw this in Sri Rama, they can speak the truth to an enemy. They're not, they're detached. Their communication is non-threatening. It's, the truth should be spoken pleasingly, but some people may not take it that way, but still about it, you just think about the situation and then you develop a proper response. It's the way you communicate. Like I have an issue right now with a thread on Facebook. A friend of mine drew my attention to some devotees that were calling Tulsi Gabbard a fraud, and they're high-fiving each other, vilifying her. And there's no need for that. I know her personally. I know her family personally. She's a devotee. They shouldn't be doing this, but how to comment in that thread without just making it worse or having them, come back even stronger. So I have to really think about how I'm going to do that, from a place of compassion for them, also,
So
like that.
Obviously, you have to consider whether somebody is going to be open to hearing anything. That's one issue. But you also your attitude is huge on that. People will feel that,
Right.
And so if it is out of compassion, and your ego is not in question, you can speak truth to people that they wouldn't be able to receive in another way, because they're realizing that you're not trying to put them down. You're not trying to be above them. There's nothing negative coming from you. And so, somebody who's really genuinely humble and has concern for others, they can very quietly, they can tell you things that you don't want to hear, but you won't be angry at them for that. You'll have to hear them. You'll have to, because they're serious. They know they care about you. They know they have no axe to grind with this. And you'll and so that's why it's beautiful if you can have friends like that, who can do that to you, tear you apart without causing any damage. It's like this beautiful kind of surgery.
Right.
So yes, you do have to consider, do people have is there any hope that they'll listen to something, or whether you'll be just
right. They might be motivated by something.
Just don't want to hear that, so that just might be it. All right, Mahamantra, you have your hand up again, or is it from before?
No, I don't know how to take it out.
Oh, okay. All right. So, all right. Well, it's 8:15, and I think we're kind of coming to the end anyway of the discussion. I don't want to hold people any longer than I have to hold them hostage here. So thank you all. It's been a nice also discussion at the end, and thank you for Dr. Madhav for finding that verse for us, and well, the concept of verse
Well, I
not here, but he really helped me with that. He found a really relevant thing in the Jaiva Dharma. It made me look today also.
Yeah, I'm going to tell him.
Yeah,
Yeah, I want
that was happening, but
Yeah.
I also made me look in the Bhajan Rahasya for more material. He got me all fired up with Bhakti.
Right. No, it's a big subject, humility, and I think Trinadapi Sanicchina, the more I think about it, it's probably one of the most important verses of
It's
that we have.
It is. It's the one.
It's
For
there, you
devotees.
can hardly think of a more important verse.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that, you're missing the point.
We're
You've
stuck.
missed the plot.
It means we're stuck. Yeah, we're stuck. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you.